right, music fans, welcome back. It's Dave, the Real Music Observer. I'm observing real music in real time for real people just like you right there. And yours truly right here. I've been kind of in the middle of this whole Dennis DeYoung Styx thing now, and I hate to say that I was right all along about this. And by the way, all you people who are out there just, I'm for the Styx lineup. This guy just doesn't like the current Styx lineup. Yes, I think the current Styx lineup is missing a key component. And that component is a man, and that man's name is Dennis DeYoung. But let's get to the crux of this video, shall we? So Dennis DeYoung took to Facebook a few days back, and he decided to tell us about what really went on back in 1997. Before we get to that part, Dennis is talking about how back in the 80s, if they had just kind of, took some time off and cleared their heads, they could have gotten back on the road and done a big stadium tour and played their greatest hits and got ready to maybe make another album. I mean, the 80s, imagine the 80s with an active Styx. You've got maybe an album in 85, maybe you got another one 86 or 87. We don't know. They could have pumped out 3 or 4 more albums during the decade and toured relentlessly. And, they're a great band, but their legacy would have been even greater. It took until 91, end of the century, and Dennis and Glenn Burtnick and JY, again without Tommy, and they put out a very good album, by the way, if you go back and listen to that album, especially in hindsight now, where if you hadn't heard it for a while and you put it on now, there's some great music there. And actually has 2 Styx tunes that hit the top 40. A tune called Love at First Sight ends up being their last top 40 single. Kind of sad, but we move forward to 97, where Dennis picks up the story and says, Styx, their manager calls and says, hey, Tommy Shaw is having cash flow problems. Let me repeat that. Mr. Damn Yankees himself, Mr. Oh, I'm the true rocker in the group, Mr. G, Dennis just makes me unhappy. And by the way, all those people that get mad at me for getting fired up about a video that I'm creating, just relax, okay? I'm doing it. You don't have to watch it, okay? I'm fired up because this doesn't have to be this way, all right? Dennis DeYoung can be in this group, and they can say, you know what, Dennis? You were the creative force. You were the songwriter. You were the arranger. Dennis has been so much more self-deprecating and saying, look, it takes a band to create this music. And I think he's right. He's correct. But as this story continues to unfold, which that was a big unfolding to learn that Tommy Shaw had cash flow problems, and Dennis, being a good friend, said, okay, it's a lot of work for me. Dennis was involved with the whole Hunchback of Notre Dame thing. So Dennis gets sick, all right, has this light sensitivity issue, can't go on the road and so forth. Very similar, by the way, to another band where the singer can't go on the road, and you know what I'm talking about. And then the band says, you know what? Because Dennis is so hard to deal with, because we hate Babe, because we hate Roboto, because we think Dennis is kind of too much of a wuss, not really a rock and roll guy, we're just going to go on without him. And it'll be fine. It'll be great. And that's not the case. And we learned that Dennis does this 97 tour because Tommy Shaw had cash flow problems. Okay? Tommy, look, buddy, pal. Can I call you Tommy? I think it's time to reconcile with Dennis DeYoung at this point. I mean, that's kind of a devastating truth nugget that gets out there. And everybody loved that tour, by the way. You guys sounded great. It appeared that you were getting along well. It seemed like things were getting back to normal. And then, of course, Dennis, and then JY, well, Dennis doesn't like to go on the road. No, but Dennis would go on the road to help a friend who's having financial problems, right? And Dennis, if you give him a little time to heal and recover from his issues, which he eventually did, he'd go back on the road with you. Your whole narrative, JY, about Dennis not liking to tour, it's blowing up in your face, because how many years has Dennis been touring with the music of Styx? He's out there right now touring, full orchestra. I'd rather go see him with a full orchestra than the Tommy Shaw kid thing that he did with some orchestra, whatever. I want to hear the singer of these songs, okay? Who's healthy, who's out there, who's viable, who has not left planet Earth. And to hear now that in '97 this was all about Tommy's lack of cash flow is just really, I think it's a big nail in the coffin of the supposed band that calls itself Styx right now. Now, again, Dennis has pleaded for, he said, look, I'd like everybody to get along. I don't want to pit people against one another. And I'll tell you what, if Tommy and JY come to their senses and say, you know what, we need Dennis back in and we're going to do a big tour in 2019, and we're just going to say, just erase the past and so forth and move on, I'll be the first one to do a video saying that these guys finally stepped up and did the right thing. But until that happens, then again, it's going to continue like this. I'm sorry, but this is really pathetic to find this stuff out. And then to think, then we're going to kick you out of the band. After you do this favor for Tommy and come back and do this tour and help everybody make money, then we're going to kick you out of the band. Okay, that sounds great. That makes so much sense. You can see why I'm getting fired up about this stuff. But again, you don't have to watch these videos. If you want lollipops and rainbows and flowers and stuff, there are other guys that you can watch that are always positive and soft-spoken, okay? I'm not that guy. All right, I'm done. I'll be back soon, though. Beware.